Astonishing scenes out of New York today, and we'll jump into domestic news in just a moment. But joining me now is Daily Telegraph National Affairs Editor and, of course, host of the US Report right here on Sky News on Friday nights, James Morrow. James, welcome. What is your take on the defiant scenes we saw from the old Trumpster today?
Oh, well, I mean, Trump gave a really big stem winder of a speech down in Mar-a-Lago today, and you got to say, you know, in an awful lot of ways, he was right. This is an incredibly politicized prosecution here, and I really think Democrats are playing with fire, Caleb, in this. You know, they have gone using Alvin Bragg, this Manhattan DA, who came to office on a promise that he was going to get Trump, turn some misdemeanors into felonies. He didn't exactly explain that in the indictment, but he said, oh, no, they're out there. Don't you worry. That's happening. You know, he's guilty of this stuff all over, you know, hush money payments over some ex-lovers in 2016, 2015, 7 years later, and it's all timed so that it goes to trial just as the Republican primary system gets kicked off. I'm sorry, this looks absolutely banana republic stuff. It is third world. It looks like the Democrat regime is trying to jail an opposition leader they don't like for political purposes, and it is hollowing out American institutions when we heard for years Donald Trump's destroying norms, he's going against norms, oh my God, he's violating norms. Well, the Democrats, the left, Caleb, have blown up a huge set of norms with this one.
It seems to be a bigger stitch up than fine cotton was back in the 80s, but where this all goes remains to be seen. Now, of course, the Federal Liberal Party room met this morning to thrash out their position on the voice to Parliament, and the party thankfully has now grown a spine, and we have a firm decision, which is that Peter Dutton and the Libs will not support the Prime Minister's Canberra voice, as he termed it. I mean, it wasn't really a surprising outcome, but what should we expect from Bridget Archer and Andrew Bragg? Is there going to be a lot of dissent from a few members of the backbench, do you think?
Oh, well, you can expect that certain media outlets are going to have those people on absolute speed dial, and they're going to be looking for any sort of quote they can get, trying to make it look like, you know, oh, the Liberal Party's in disarray, Peter Dutton's a wrecker, all of that stuff. I mean, I think for Peter Dutton, the thing is here is the Liberal Party, you know, the base members that I talk to are incredibly enthusiastic about going out and campaigning against what they see as this race-based referendum. And they just need to, you know, let those people, let that go, let that happen, let that, you know, that no campaign really take off. You went through the statistics, the polling beforehand, you know, referendums lose altitude over time. They generally don't gain it. And there's a lot of people who think that this voice, it is, you know, divisive, and it goes against liberal principles, which is that, you know, you don't have this separate body that's based on race giving advice separately to all the other sort of mechanics of government. So, you know, good on, I think, Peter Dutton for taking it this far. But I mean, I think it certainly took him long enough.
It did take them a while, and I know some people will probably be critical and say that they haven't gone far enough today because they've still said they support constitutional recognition, etc. But I think we have to acknowledge that if you want to defeat this referendum, people, as I said before, who've already made a decision on principle have made that decision. They're not the people that we need to be talking to anymore. We need to be talking to people who are teetering on the edge. And this sort of policy position, I think, helps get them in that direction.
Well, and, you know, the other thing I'd say, Caleb, too, is, you know, they were delaying because, you know, they had the New South Wales election and then they had the Aston by-election. Well, you know, Dom Perrottet in New South Wales, he was very pro the voice. Did that win him another term in government? No, it didn't. You know, the Victorian Libs, John Pizzuto, I think, are pretty pro-voice themselves, pro-treaty even, and that didn't win them Aston. So this whole idea that they need to keep going with these sorts of, you know, labor social programs because, oh, that's where the kids are doing, and that's how we're going to win office, I think is an absolute nonsense.
Well, if you needed any further proof that energy policy in this country is a complete dog's breakfast, ahead of the budget, which of course is on May 9, the Albanese government's had to negotiate 8 separate deals with the states and territories to meet its promise to deliver $3 billion worth of bill relief. I mean, this is just such an absurd situation. And by the way, where is our $275?
Well, I mean, that's the bigger issue, isn't it? I mean, you know, on one level, this story, fine, it's a federal system, you know, you got different states and territories, it all is going to work differently. Of course, that's going to be a mess. Sure, fine. But the bigger issue, the much bigger issue is how much has labor market intervention done to actually increase prices? How much has the death riding of coal and gas in this country contributed to prices going up? And how much are our bills going to go up because of the hundreds of billions of dollars that are going to need to be spent, excuse me, to rewire the nation for all of the renewables?
Now, after yesterday's review into Medicare was revealed, up to $3 billion is being wasted each year, I kind of get the feeling that Labor are looking to slash spending and waste ahead of this budget. Here's a little bit of what Finance Minister Katie Gallagher said yesterday.
The pressures on the budget are real. The pressures that are coming forward are all for very worthy measures. So we'll be responsible. We won't add to inflation. We look for sensible savings where we can. We want to repair the budget over time.
And I heard the Minister again this morning talking about this, saying that the budget isn't in great shape. Do you think that Labor is perhaps warming the country up for budget cuts and perhaps a spot of austerity?
Well, I'm not sure they're going to go as far as austerity, Caleb, but I think what they are trying to do is send the message that there's not a lot of money sitting in the piggy bank here, and that when it comes to cost of living, which is, of course, the number one issue, I think, for just about everybody, almost in every demographic here, is that there's going to be limited relief. There's going to be very limited in the way of handouts and money getting sprayed around. And I think they're really trying to manage expectations, not so much about the cuts, although, I think we'll see some winding in of NDIS, which has gotten, out of hand because of a whole variety of issues, some of this Medicare stuff you've spoken about, but also just simply saying we can't afford to keep giving everybody a handout for everything because everything's gotten expensive.
James Morrow, we'll see you again on Friday night for the US report with an update on the happenings with Trump, no doubt, and then again for Outsiders on Sunday morning. Thank you for joining me.